Councillors, can I call this meeting to order, please? Welcome everybody and welcome to this meeting, which is a statutory council meeting. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting and in the gallery may be captured as part of this recording. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land. So we acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, and we pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and welcome any descendants who may be here this evening. Council, do we have any apologies and leaves of absence? Thank you. Councillor Goldsworthy, I did receive, as CEO, I did receive a notification from Councillor O'Connor that she's taking leave effective today for 1 month. She's not necessarily asked for you to vote on that, but just if I can note that for the minutes that she is taking leave for the next month. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? None? Okay. We do have on the agenda an outgoing Mayor's report, but given that the outgoing Mayor is not here today, we'll pass over that one. Item 5.1, we're here today to conduct some things we do, I guess, once a year on a statutory basis, which is in regards to elections of Mayor, Deputy Mayor and so on. So item 5.1 is an information-only paper but describes the process for today. And I won't go through in detail, but basically, as you've noticed, I've started the meeting off today. I'll step aside in a moment while we elect a temporary chair who will then conduct the mayoral election today. They'll also determine the mayoral term, whether it's 1 or 2 years, and then once that's determined, the new mayor will then take the chair of the meeting, and then we continue off the rest of this meeting with addressing a couple of issues, being meeting schedules, councillor allowances and appointments to committees. So it's a basic overview of what we're going to be doing for the statutory part of the meeting. So any questions or clarity on any of that? Okay, I might just move straight into item 5.2, where we seek nominations for a person to chair the meeting to conduct the mayoral election. So do I have the nominations for a temporary chairperson?
I'll move that Councillor Trannery be the temporary chairperson.
Councillor Shepherd, second. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, can I declare James Trannery the successful temporary chairperson for this next part of the meeting?
Thank you, CEO. First order of business is we'll determine the mayoral term. So the recommendation includes 1 or 2 years. So if I could have someone move a motion that includes 1 or 2 years, please. Councillor Shepherd.
I'd like to move that the term be for 1 year.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Price was first. All those for? Against? Motion carried. The next one, 5.4, election of the Mayor. So, I will call for nominations for the position of Mayor. Councillor Price.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Bernard Gaffney.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd. Is there any other nominations? I'll nominate Councillor Goldsworthy. I can do that from the chair. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Shepherd seconds that. Thank you. So is there any further nominations for the position of Mayor? So I call a vote. Do we do it in order of nomination? Or?
Start with the order of alphabetical surnames, and Councillor Gaffney will seek a vote for Councillor.
So, sure. So if I can have a show of hands, a vote for Councillor Gaffney as Mayor.
Sorry, yes.
Sorry, better have 5 minutes. We all know you so well, but if you'd like to talk.
Thanks, Councillor Trenery. I will be a full-time mayor. The mayor should represent the entire Shire and have a holistic approach to Indigo Shire. The mayor should not be seen to favour one town over another, whether it be services, advocacy or grant applications. There is more to tourism than just cycling. I have been a mayor of Indigo Shire in 2010, 2014 and 2015 and deputy mayor over another 4 years. I will be a fully inclusive mayor. My main achievements have been in advocacy, whether with a Labor government or a Liberal National Party government. My advocacy achievements has been $2.1 million for the Shire office in Yakandanda. Over $4 million for the community facility at Barmutha Park. The refurbishment of the Yakandanda Town Hall, building of the Yakandanda Sports Park Complex, the Sporting Centre at Kiowa, Tangambalanga, as well as $3.1 million for Lake Sambal, the Barnawatha Sports and Complex Centre, $500,000 for Lake King, which was put towards the $1.92 million for the revitalisation of the Rutherglen project, $2 million, which became $4 million for the truck deviation project of Main Street, Rutherglen, the Sports and Community Centre at Waganya, $2.9 million for the ceilings of Soldiers Road, Barnawatha, Carlisle Road, Rutherglen, and Sanatorium Road, Yakandanda. And very recently, $650,000 for safety works for Osborne's Flat Road, the highest amount given to any shire in Victoria from this funding stream, and many other projects for small projects. We are an achieving and functional council. I want this to continue and remain.
Thank you, Councillor Gaffney. Councillor Goldsworthy.
First of all, I'll take the opportunity to thank the former mayor, if she's watching, for her 2 years of service. We do appreciate it, and happy birthday for today, Jenny. In relation to how I would be as mayor, it would be a collegiate approach where we work together as a council. I recognise that any funding that's obtained is through the hard work of staff and the lobbying of council, and it's backed up by our strategic plans, and it's a holistic thing where all council takes credit for what we do. It's not one individual. I believe I bring to the council a number of positive attributes. I'm very thorough in what I do. I can work with the staff and the councillors, and I believe a 1 year term is appropriate, and that together we can achieve more. So yeah, I'd look for you to support me in this vote, and yeah, best of luck to my competitor.
Well done. So if I could call for the vote, those wishing to vote for Councillor Gaffney, please raise your hand. Those wanting to vote for, I count three. Those that want to vote for Councillor Goldsworthy, please raise your hand. So we have a tie. What we will do in the event of a tie, we have a recount or a re-vote, believe it or not. So we have to go through this process. So I will call for votes for Councillor Gaffney. 1, 2, 3. And I call votes for now Councillor Goldsworthy. Once again, it's 3. So what the process is here, and the CEO might be able to explain a bit better, but it's actually, there's a system in place when there's a deadlock is where we draw it from a hat. So we'll be drawing it from a hat. The CEO will take over and take responsibility for that action. I think then the 2 councillors get to pick either a negative or a positive. Is that not right?
So, councillors, I conduct the lot here today. I have two envelopes. One envelope has the word successful and the other envelope has the word unsuccessful. I'll ask in alphabetical order for the councillors to take one envelope each. So I'll ask Councillor Gaffney to take the first envelope out and Councillor Goldsworthy to take the second one out, and then they could choose to open at the same time or separately. It doesn't really stipulate, but you can. There you go. All mixed up. We'll shuffle them up. Councillor Gaffney. There you go. Councillor Goldsworthy.
How do we announce this? Do they announce this?
Oh, it's one will happy and one won't. But
Unsuccessful? Successful. Congratulations to Councillor Gaffney, who's Mayor of Indigo Shire. Congratulations.
I'm not sure what I'm going to say because I certainly haven't got a speech planned. I certainly haven't had a speech made for the election, but I would first of all like to really thank Jenny O'Connor. She would go very close to being the best mayor that I've worked under over the last 10 years. She's sincere, she's intelligent. She has led this council very well and made us functional where a lot of people said that we wouldn't be functional. We come from very different areas with different beliefs. I think she also made the staff and councillors connect a lot more, and I'd like to congratulate her and I wish her well in the Benambra election. I'd like to thank all of the councillors, in particular those who gave me support. That's right, Councillor Price and Councillor Murdoch. Is this what Jenny reads off?
Yep.
Now we go to 5.5, which is the election of Deputy Mayor. I now call for nominations for Deputy Mayor.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Murdoch.
Do we have a seconder? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Do we have any other nominations for Deputy Mayor? Any other nominations? In that case, congratulations, Councillor Murdoch. You are the Deputy Mayor of Indigo Shire Council.
I think we have to take a vote, Mr Mayor.
I think we might take a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Congratulations, Councillor Murdoch. Now, it's appointments to council committees and external bodies. We all have a list of the councillors who are in each one. Or the CEO has some amendments.
through you, Mr Chair. Councillors, the agenda paper has some has an attachment which includes the current representatives to those committees. And after some discussions earlier today, there was some suggestions for some minor changes to those. So if I can make those changes to the agenda paper and have that minuted, and then we'll be voting on the changes to those. So there was a change to the Goulburn Broken Greenhouse Alliance. Councillor Price is listed as a current rep. We'll change that to a sub. The Municipal Emergency Management Planning Committee, Councillor Shepherd is listed as a representative. We can change hers to be a sub. The Municipal Fire Management Planning Committee, if we can add the name Councillor Gaffney as a sub to that committee. The North East Waste Resource Recovery Group, if we can add Councillor Murdoch as a sub to that committee. The last one's the Rural Councils Victoria is currently listing the Mayor as the representative and the Deputy Mayor as the sub. If we can change that to Councillor O'Connor being the main representative and the sub being the Mayor as elected tonight. So now that you're that person, Councillor Gaffney, are you still okay to be the sub on the RCV committee?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And very happy for Councillor O'Connor to continue in that role.
So if I can make those changes to the agenda paper and then put that forward for consideration.
Now, I'll ask the councillors, do you want to go through each of these committees and which councillors are on it? I don't think there are any major changes at all. So I'll leave it up to you. Happy to go through it, each one, or not go? All right. Is it, well, we can take a vote on it.
The CEO just went through the changes and everything else is recorded, so I'm happy for us to just have a vote on what's listed that includes the CEO changes.
Is anybody against that? Thank you, Councillor Trenery. The next item. Yeah, would somebody like to move that item? That's right, Councillor Shepherd, seconded by Councillor Price. Is anybody against? All those in favour? Carried. Item 5.7, which is the council meeting schedule and administration for decision. The recommendation is that council sets the following dates, starting on the 26th of February and finishing on the 17th of December, and determines to include the following meeting preliminaries to all council meetings: to notify the gallery that the meeting will be live streamed, acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, and reconfirm of councillor oath. Determines that the councillors provide periodic reports to council with the following content and frequency: the mayoral diary of appointments be provided monthly, the councillors provide a written report on funded development activities or trips as determined by the councillor in conjunction with the mayor. The councillors be able to provide a verbal report monthly of no more than 2 minutes on their activities. Would somebody like to move that? Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 5.8, which is determination of councillor and mayoral allowance. The recommendation is the council reviews the councillor and mayoral allowance in accordance with section 74(1) of the Local Government Act 1989, sets the councillor allowances at the top of category 1 as determined by the Minister of Local Government, sets the mayoral allowance at the top of category 1 as determined by the Minister for Local Government, authorises the CEO to commence a section 223 consultation process in relation with the allowance level, and 5, confirms the allowance levels if no submissions are received. Would somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Murdoch, seconded by Councillor Trenery. All those in favour? Councillor Goldsworthy. Against. So, Councillor Murdoch?
These are the same conditions that we've been had for the last quite a few years, is that the mayoral allowances are to give you a bit of recompense for a lot of the work and travelling that you do and the time that is put in. These are what is recommended in the category that we've chosen, that is for the small councils like ours. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Trenery. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Goldsworthy.
Just like to say that the community at different times suffers a lot. We hear a lot about how much our rates cost, and our staff are looking at a relatively low EB, as is most of the community. We're looking to give ourselves a 2% pay increase. I think it's actually an opportunity to show that we can tighten our belts a little bit as well. Whilst ideally I think we should go down in what we receive in recompense, I think a 0% increase for this year would be appropriate. We already get or have the ability to put in for kilometres travelled. I just think that we could set an example to the rest of the Shire.
Would somebody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Shepherd.
We discussed this last time, I think, and I'm still of the same opinion that getting an allowance means that people who aren't necessarily retirees and self-funded, well-paid people can apply and be on council. So it means we might get a more diverse group of people on council, and I mean, you're most welcome to donate your money to someone if you'd like to, but I really do think if we're going to treat this as a professional group of people working in council, that we need to get some recompense, and especially to encourage young people and people who may not be able to afford to spend this time working in council.
Would somebody else like to speak to the motion? Okay, Councillor Trenery.
I do sympathise with Councillor Goldworthy and what he's saying. I think, and I brought up the same point as Councillor Shepherd last year, we really need to encourage people and as many people as possible onto council and running for council, and I think this helps. In that, in fact, if you're in a small business, I think the time you spend on council, the $20,000 odd that you receive wouldn't cover wages in a pink fit probably. So, I mean, if you're taking time off work or whatever, it basically reimburses you for that. So, I think that we should receive it, but also we should accept and be very, very open about the costs and any further costs that we put on council.
Thank you, Councillor Murdoch. Do you wish to sum up?
No, thank you.
All right, I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're now going to have a very short adjournment until we start the... This meeting closed. Councillor. I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of Council. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded, and the voices and images of those participating in the meeting and in the gallery may be captured as part of this recording. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. As councillors, we have taken an oath to carry out our duties in the best interests of the people of Indigo Shire and to do this in a fair and impartial manner. We are all committed to exercising the council's powers and functions to the best of our skills and judgment. Do we have any apologies and leave of absence? That's right, Councillor Goldsworthy.
So Councillor O'Connor is a leave of absence.
Thank you, CEO.
Oh, sorry, can I call that one again? Yeah, sorry, councillors, I have received a request for leave, a notification of leave from Councillor O'Connor, who will be taking leave for the next month.
Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? No. Item 5, which is open forum, in which members of the gallery can ask council questions, as long as they've given notice and that they've been received before 6 p.m. We have a number of questions. The first questions are from Ed Tyree. Just before you speak, Ed, thank you.
Are you ready, Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, okay. First, congratulations to you and Councillor Murdoch on your appointment.
Thank you.
My questions relate to agenda item 14, the notice of motion, Goulburn Murray water briefing. I have 3 questions. Question 1, what are Indigo Shire communities, in particular Stanley community, to make of notice of motion 14.1 when grounded by the claims asserted in the notice? It implies that councillors and members of the community misled the council and the people of Indigo by refusing a bore water development planning application in March of this year. What basis, in fact, is there to the assertion put in the explanatory notes is that concern expressed during the debate resulting in the refusal appears to have been a willing ignorance to avoid the facts being introduced?
We will be addressing this item later on in the debate.
I guess that would be the answer, Mayor. Thank you. Question 2. Since November 2013, the Council and the Stanley community have been asking Goulburn Murray Water to provide answers to questions regarding the management of water on the Stanley Plateau, and those requests have been met with obfuscation or no response at all. Councillors and Stanley Rural Community Inc. committee members met with Goulburn Murray Water representatives on separate occasions seeking answers to questions regarding management of water mining in Indigo Shire. Misleading or incorrect information was provided in both cases in relation to the use of water, as defined in the Water Act. Legal counsel representing Stanley Pastoral Proprietary Limited acknowledged this fact in subsequent court proceedings. On what basis does the proponent of the notice of motion assert that Goulburn Murray Water officers on October 2nd this year provided the facts solely missing in their presentation to councillors?
Perhaps the mover of that motion, Councillor Goldsworthy, might like to raise that when he speaks to the motion.
Thank you. Question
or
3.
He just said he's happy to answer it now. Try Councillor Goldsworthy.
The reason why I raised the facts solely missing is that which was presented and argued to the council in relation to the matter that I talk about in the notice of motion, being the application to take 19 megas of water. We weren't provided with appropriate information about the water use. A lot of arguments were made around the water. It wasn't the issue that we're deciding the matter on, but given the concern of councillors, I felt that we should have been briefed by the responsible authority earlier.
Ed, question 3.
You know, going to allow me to answer that? I guess not. Question 3. In the past 5 years, Goulburn Murray Water has been less than frank and forthcoming in its responses to the community when handling questions and issues about the agency's administrative shortcomings put to it by the community. The community's experience is that Goulburn Murray Water's approach is opaque at best, obstructing the flow of candid information in relation to the management of a publicly owned resource. Does the proponent contend that the Council and community should rely on Goulburn Murray Water for transparency and candour on the basis of its briefing and presentation, and not on councillors who are duty-bound to act in the interests of the community?
Councillor Goldsworthy.
So my request that we facilitate a presentation from Goulburn Murray Water is so that the Stanley community has an opportunity to receive the same briefing that we did, and that they can ask questions of it. If there's concern about the factual nature of it, then they be given that opportunity. I thought it was a very good presentation given to us, but I think it's worthy of going out to the broader community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Annie Turnbull. I noticed that some questions are directed to a particular councillor. That councillor will have the choice of either answering them directly or addressing them perhaps during the motion.
That's fine. So my first question, in the explanation supporting the notice of motion, Councillor Goldsworthy asks, is the issue really about water being extracted? Is it about what that water is being used for, or is it the trucks on the road? All of these issues have been raised by Council and the community as elements of the holistic discussion about water mining in Indigo Shire. Has Councillor Goldsworthy been listening to the discussion, and has he not realised that the community's primary concern is that bore water is being taken from water for food production?
Thank you.
So once again, I asked those, or posed those questions, because if it's on the extraction of water or what it's being used for, we need to make that clear and what our advocacy should be about. Because if you take it on what Goulburn Murray Water presented, it shouldn't be on the extraction of water, and I accept that there's differing opinions on that, but the quantity is minute in comparison to the recharge that falls into the groundwater system every year.
My second question, Professor Peter Dalhouse has more than 35 years' experience in hydrogeology, engineering geology and environmental geology in Western Victoria. He holds a PhD from Flinders University and a Master of Science from RMIT. He is a Senior Research Fellow at Federation University Australia and an expert in groundwater surface water interactions, groundwater-dependent ecosystems and salinity risk management. Dr. Dalhouse states emphatically that Goulburn Murray Water erred in its desktop analysis of the impact of Stanley Pastoral's bore at Kew Springs, describing the analysis they used as crude and inept, and that the information on which Goulburn Murray Water relied for its analysis was inappropriate for that region. Dr. Dalhouse's opinion is based on sound scientific argument that supports the position of councillors in their assessment of the issues regarding bore water mining on the Stanley Plateau. Has Councillor Goldsworthy read Dr. Dalhouse's report on the Kew Springs bore and its impact on the aquifer and agricultural environment, which incidentally Goulburn Murray Water has not refuted?
Yes.
So the report itself I haven't read in full. I have read the summary that was provided during the case notes from VCAT and I think the Supreme Court. I read that as well. I did ask one of my fellow councillors if I could get a copy of that report to read it. I know that during the presentation Goulburn Murray Water were asked about that, and they felt that the good doctor based his assertions on the Keyword catchment and not on the upper ovens.
Mm-hmm. Just a comment, if I may, that report is on the Stanley community website for anybody to see.
Thank you, Annie. Item 6, condolences. That's right, Councillor Goldsworthy.
Thank you. Council has been contacted by Iris Mannix, who was recently the Secretary of the Lake Sample Committee of Management. She wanted to pass on about Ted Zangle, who was a long-time server of the Lake Sample Committee of Management. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of weeks ago. Ted's been a long-term resident of the Beechworth area. He created the bird hide that was built around Lake Sample. He sourced machinery. He operated the Silver Creek Caravan Park. He created the Emma Church. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'd have to read it.
Yes, look, he has done a lot. He built the carriage motor inn and the Country Charm cottage. So he has been a long-term resident here. He's brought his family up here. He's contributed to the Shire and the beautification of our lake area. And I'd just like to pass on our condolences to his family.
Would you like a letter of condolence sent under seal?
That would be appropriate in the circumstances.
All right, moved by Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Is anybody against? All those in favour? Carried. Item 7, the recommendation is the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of September 2018 as published on the council's website be confirmed. We have somebody move those minutes be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Is anybody against? All those in favour? Carried. Do we have any business arising from those minutes? Do we have any deputations or petitions? Nil. Item 10.1, the recommendation is that Council accepts the Q1 2018-19 Finance and Performance Report, including progress reports on financial performance, capital works, advocacy actions, annual council action plan, alters the municipal charge for 2018-2019 from $305.70 to $305. 3, adopts the Q1 budget variation as detailed in this report and attachment, including the following adjustments. A, 37,620 of additional operating income, 345,222 of additional operating expense, 1,032,776 of additional capital income, and D, 2,352,599 of additional capital works expenditure. Would somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Goldsworthy. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Trenery. Councillor Goldsworthy. Yeah, I suppose that's one advantage.
Look, it's I think a relatively good news story still to tell. I think we're on track. Our costs are up, but so is our income. So I think we'll still do well as a Shire this year.
Thank you. Councillor Trenery.
Just very quickly, Mr Mayor, the fact that we've put in additional information for people to see mean we're more open, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Is anybody against the motion? All those, yes. Councillor Shepherd.
I just wanted to speak to the rate cap compliance because it's in the agenda and I think most people will have seen it, and we were all quite concerned when we saw what had happened. It's only a small amount of money, which makes no difference. It's still a mistake, and we've been told that the error has been, it won't happen again. It was a, putting it in the document error. What do you call that? Coding, thank you, coding error. And if anyone like me has already paid their rates by quarterly payment and set it up, is it 65 cents will be 70 cents will be taken out next year from your rates. So I just wanted to make sure that people saw that and it was transparent.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 10.2, the recommendation is that Council considers and endorses the Indigo Shire Council Annual Report 2017-18 as required under Section 134 of the Local Government Act 1989. Would somebody like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Goldsworthy, seconded Councillor Shepherd. Try Councillor Goldsworthy.
This is a procedural thing that we need to go through annually because it's already been checked off by the Minister from what I understand. It does highlight, however, some of the good work that's been done across the Shire. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to highlight the capital works of $6.12 million were completed during the financial year. We had a completion rate of 81%. We opened the Chiltern Early Years building. We received the grant of $230,000 for the refurbishment of the railway goods shed. We have new economic development and tourism strategies, the Barnawatha structure plan and Keyword Tangam placemaking project, the implementation of initiatives for ageing well. We put out community grants with more than $50,000. We're still supporting our festivals and events. There's a lot more that we do. They say the council provides more than 80 services, and you get a really good picture of what those services are when you have a look at our council annual report. So thank you to the staff for all their hard work and for those that pulled it together.
That's right. Councillor Shepherd. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Is anybody against the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 10.3, the recommendation is the Council receives and notes the resolution of the attached unconfirmed advisory committee minutes and endorses the officer comments. Somebody like to move that motion? Councillor Trenery, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Councillor Trenery.
I'd just like to comment on the advisory committees, I suppose, in general. The minutes are there. Obviously, we've got a lot of hard-working volunteers in our community, and I think it's fantastic that this comes to a council meeting so we can all go over it and see what they've accomplished in the last month.
That's right. Councillor Murdoch.
I think Councillor Trenery took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, that'd be a good song. Is anybody against the motion? Anyone else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 10.4, the recommendation is that Council accepts the attached Assembly of Council records. Would somebody like to move that motion? That's right, Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. That's right, Councillor Price. That's right, Councillor Murdoch. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Anybody against the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.1, the recommendation is that Council adopts the Kiewa Tangambalanga placemaking plan and the Kiewa Tangambalanga structure plan. Do we have a council move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Murdoch, seconded by Councillor Trenery. Councillor Murdoch.
I'd like to take note of Councillor Croucher, or ex-Councillor Croucher, who's in here and I'm sure is really quite interested in this placemaking plan. Coming from a town at Chiltern where we've had the placemaking and seen a lot of work going on, I think that this plan is going to put Tangambalanga on the map, and it's been consulted with by the community, or consulted with the community overall about the various things that they want for their community, and I think that it's time we adopted the plan and start to work on the area. Okay.
Okay, Councillor Trenery.
I'd just like to note how much the community was involved in this. It was absolutely fantastic. And the staff that were involved to go through some of the issues they went through and went over was the Main Street upgrade, community assets, business and tourism, transport, improving access to the river economy, the local character, housing, lifestyle, community and many other things as well. And I think it's been a fantastic effort by community and staff.
Would anybody... Yes, Councillor Shepherd.
What I love to see is actions, and the fact that already two things have come out of this. A grant of $10,000 has been secured to support research and feasibility of a pump track and roller skating rink at Kiewa Tangam, and a $40,008 Vic Roads grant has been secured to continue work with co-design to design and trial installations on Kiwa East Road, which will inform permanent designs and streetscape beautifications on the main street. So it's already rolling, so it's exciting to see.
Councillor Price.
I've just been thinking about when we started to have this discussion about placemaking and structure plan for Kiwa Tangambalanga, and the community was in a very different situation at that time. It says here in the background information, they were in the process of a major transition triggered by uncertainty surrounding the region's dairy processing hub, and so I'm really pleased to see this plan make it back to council with Kiwa Tangam in a more certain position than where we began, and look forward to seeing the good work come from it as it has in our Chiltern placemaking plan.
Would anybody else like to speak to this motion? Just one quick comment for me. There is no harder worker for the Kiwa Tangambalanga community than Peter Croucher, and has done for many years. He always had to have the last word. All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.2, the recommendation that Council notes a Kew Springs water extraction facility monitoring report content and the action undertaken as required. Would somebody like to move that? Moved by Councillor Price, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Try Councillor Price. Councillor Murdoch?
No.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 11.3, Building Better Regions Fund. The recommendation is that Council endorses the Building Better Regions Fund, BBRF grant application for the Beechworth to Yakandanda Epic Mountain Bike Trail with total project costs of $2 million. 2, the Council makes an in-principle commitment of $1 million over 2 years, matching $1 million BBRF potential grant funding. The CEO would like to make a comment.
Sorry, Mr Mayor. Before the Council consider this item, could I just ask a slight change be made to that recommendation? The report itself talks about the timetable for the BBRF funding, which in fact is over a 3-year period, or covers 3 financial years. So I can ask that if you consider that you consider the recommendation altered in dot point 2, that the $1 million matching would be over 3 years and not 2 years, which is consistent with what's in the report itself.
That's right. Councillor Goldsworthy moved, seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Goldsworthy.
The mountain bike market is the biggest tourism market where we can have the greatest impact at the moment. The strategic justification is all before us. For over $1 million invested over 3 years from an average capital works budget of anywhere between $6 and $8 million. The payback is $3.7 million every year. We've had strong representation from the community with more than 40 submissions supporting the proposals, acknowledging the economic, social and health benefits, and they really are worth a read to get an indication of the benefits of cycling in our area. An epic mountain bike track linking Beechworth to Yakandanda will be a game changer. It will provide the critical mass of cycling opportunities to make the Indigo Shire a mecca for cyclists. It will open up areas of the Shire to show more of our nature and gold tourism. And if we want our Shire to continue to grow and progress, we need to support this new initiative. So for that reason, I'd ask all councillors to support this.
Okay, Councillor Shepherd. Councillor Trenery, did you want to speak?
I speak in favour of this recommendation or the motion that's been put. Obviously $3.7 million input into communities has a huge effect in these small towns in this Shire. These go into the business that sponsor our footy clubs, that sponsor our cricket clubs, that sponsors our festivals. It has a rolling effect in our community. And to have one of the most epic tracks, or one of the biggest tracks in the Southern Hemisphere in North East Victoria, and to have it in our Shire is absolutely fantastic. And I understand there's concern, ongoing concern, costs of maintenance and things like that. But the input, the $3.7 million back into the community, they'll be distributed through our communities, will make that well spent money. We don't make money out of anything. We don't make money out of our libraries. We don't make money putting roads down or putting footpaths down. We do it because of community benefit. And this is not a situation of us getting it on this side and something missing out on the other side. This is an opportunity that comes once. The government could change, so the tourism slant might disappear after, heaven forbid, the government changes in next year. But so this is a one-off opportunity that we can take, and the benefits to our community are huge. Thank you.
Would anybody else? Yes, Councillor Price.
I support the Epic Mountain Bike Trail from Beechworth to Yakandanda. I think the idea is fantastic. I love the product that we're able to stand behind to say that it will be the only all-weather epic trail in the Southern Hemisphere. There's another one in Mount Buller that's not all-weather, so it's not used all year round. I also have concerns with this project. We have been talking about doing a cycling strategy, and we've already accepted funding for the rail trail. And I think that if we just keep ticking our priorities off that list, that there'll be no cycling strategy left to do. I also see that councillors wanted something put forward for this Building Better Regions funding application, and I understand that, but I think that showed some room for improvement for our scoping, that this was the only project that we had ready to put forward for this application. I also think that although it's highlighted in NEVCO as a significant priority, there are other priorities across the Shire, and we need to have a better look at those, and I think that will really galvanise in our cycling strategy. I thank the community for their campaign via email that we've received in the last few days. It's been good to hear of the support. But I also recognise the campaign that has just been ongoing for the last few months, even years, from across the Shire, saying we have cycling products as well that are not being recognised at this point. I have concerns about how we afford this project and what is compromised across the Shire in terms of our capital works to go forward for this project. But I do support us going forward to leverage funds from state government or federal government. And the other thing is for me that this is not going away. We've still got the business case. We can still make an application for this in years to come. I just don't support us making an application for it right now.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion, apart from you, Councillor Shepherd? Councillor Murdoch.
Yeah, no, I'm a little bit torn on this one. I think it's an absolutely terrific opportunity, but you know, we also have funds that need to be dispersed across the whole Shire, and it's a real conundrum in that you know, there are so many projects to do, and this one is taking a lot of money out of the council's coffers to do it. But when opportunity knocks, I think you've almost got to take it while you can. But the big thing is that there are still, you know, other projects that are really worthy, and I hope that we start looking and doing and putting those forward as well.
I've just got a couple of questions for the CEO, and be very certain I think this is a very worthwhile project. Have we done the route for this course? I know that we haven't done the scoping, we've got a business plan, and I just wonder if the actual rail trail is going to cost 6.2 million, and this is only going to cost 2, where do we get the figure of $2 million? Has it been costed? Have we gone out for quotes? Have we gone out for tender?
Through the chair, so the business case for this project was based on a design trail, yes. So there is a plan for where the trail would be located. Obviously, if the plan was to move forward to the detailed design phase, that trail route would need to be ground truthed, is the vernacular, to ensure that what has been proposed can in fact actually happen. The $2 million quote is based on the route that has been proposed, and that's been sourced. It's not a build quote, but it's certainly based on the specifications and the standards required for an EPIC standard trail, and that's been provided by reputable international standard rail trail builders and designers.
It also says that there'll be 34 jobs created, and with the bike track, the $6.2 million, I know it spoke about between 27 and 32, which is about 50 jobs. What type of jobs would this track be able to maintain?
So facilities such as this have a lot of different flow-on effects. So there'd be jobs directly related to the cycling activity. So so that'd be the mechanics or the equipment that the bike riders require to be serviced, etc. There'd be transport operators to be able to transport people to or from the endpoints of the trail. Obviously, food and beverage operators would benefit. Similarly, accommodation providers would benefit. And obviously that extends then to the usual retail opportunities that are presented when there's large visitors continually into particular towns.
Just one more question for the CEO. It says that to fund this, Council would have to reschedule capital works project from the 5-year capital works program. Would they come from other parts of the Shire?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I mean, we're all working within a rate cap environment, and we have done forward look forecasts for our revenues and expenses based on staying within the cap. We've got a forecast for a capital program, although individual capital projects within that haven't been considered by Council for the forward years. Only the current year budget does that. So what we would need to do in the forward years is to accommodate our $1 million share, which would be a combination of, over that 3-year period, adjusting our potential capital program to make it fit, and which would mean other projects would be deferred or pushed back or amended or not. After we do that, there may still be a shortfall that Council may consider borrowings to cover this investment. And my understanding of our borrowing policy is this is the sort of thing that such borrowings might be considered for at that time. Certainly today we're not talking about borrowings, but down the track as we assess each budget, they're the sorts of things we'll consider. So we don't specifically have a range of projects today that I would say that's the ones that would make way for it. Basically, we would have to cut the cloth to fit and design a capital program for the next few years accommodating this in it, which might mean other projects would have to be amended to make it fit.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
I've been of the same opinion of Councillor Price. I really had to look at this closely. The EPIC Trail is something we supported it being scoped last year. It now is before us. It's something I didn't realise it was going to cost that much. So the thing of looking at us having to support that with $1 million has been a difficult thing to me to think of out of our budget. But one thing that has been swaying me, I must say, is the fact that Yak Tracks and the chain gang of Beechworth have put in millions of dollars of in-kind work themselves. Now, I don't know if that's an exaggeration, but that's what they say they have spent on time and energy in setting up their own trails. So for us to be able to assist them, I mean, I know it's not only for them, it's for the whole Shire, but the thing is, of value adding to the work that they've already done is something that I can see as being of merit and of great import to them to be supported. And I feel it's my role as a councillor to support community when they do great things, and they really have done some amazing work in setting up these tracks on their own. And here's an opportunity for us to support them. Now, I know it looks that it might be difficult, but I mean, I've really asked quite everyone here really on how we're going to be able to fund that, and they tell me that we can. So I'm going to rely on that that to happen really, and I'm really wanting to support this, and especially these communities. I understand that the people on the other side might be concerned, and so on the other side of the Shire, I've had quite a few people saying not Beechworth and Yakandanda again, but I just want to ask Mark Florence, the Director of Development and Community Services. I see Rutherglen, Destination Rutherglen have asked for whether we could look at the BBRF funding under the stream of community investments, which means that they may be to engage some scoping on some of the issues that they're looking at over there. Is there an opportunity for us to do that in this round?
There is through a different stream of the BBRF, so there's a community investment stream, and the one that they're talking about would be unmatched funding of about $20,000. I'm not sure that $20,000 would be enough to scope the project that they're talking about in terms of the cycle loop from Moodawee, Rutherglen, etc. I
think they're talking about the railway precinct over there, the silo.
Right.
So I'm interested in seeing if we're able to somehow, I'll leave that to you to look at and get back to us, and I'm sure they'll be interested as well. But okay. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Goldsworthy.
So this project won't go away, but the opportunity to get funding may well. We can reschedule capital works, or we can look at borrowings. This is the best opportunity to make the greatest impact, and it's needed to get a critical mass to make a game-changing result. You only have to look at our near neighbours at Bright, at Mount Beauty, and wider at Derby, Maydena, and Rotorua to see the results day in, day out. This is a really good project, and we should take the opportunity to support it.
I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 12.1, the recommendation is that Council endorses the attached terms of reference for the Beechworth Trees Reference Group. 2 notes that these will replace the terms of reference previously approved in October 2013 for the Beechworth Trees Consultative Committee. Would somebody like to move that? Moved by Councillor Shepherd, seconded by Councillor Murdoch. Sorry, Councillor Shepherd.
I think this is really changing the Beechworth Trees Group from being an advisory group to Council as being a reference group, which will take away some of the governance concerns and will make it a more relaxed group of people who will be able to speak to tree issues in our Shire rather than have to meet and have an agenda and all the other things. So, yeah, I think this is a good idea.
After Councillor Murdoch.
Yeah, I was on that committee for quite a few years with some really marvellous people and people who spoke a language I don't think I knew, but the name of all those trees in their Latin derivatives and things like that, they are passionate about what they are doing, and they're really put in a great effort for this community, and I think that they can go on by themselves. They don't need any councillors supervising them. They're pretty good at working out what the references they're going to give to us, or referrals, should I say, that they're going to give to us. So I just congratulate them and hope that they keep working for us the way they have been, because it's been terrific.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried. Item 13.1, the recommendation is the Council adopts the Community Engagement Policy 2018 as attached, and 2, adopts the Community Engagement Strategy 2018 as attached. Somebody like to move by Councillor Shepherd, seconded by Councillor Price. Councillor Shepherd.
Tonight is Roberta Baker, Manager of Communications, last night. And it's fitting that we pass this community engagement strategy and community engagement policy. I'm assuming we're going to pass it in her honour, really. She's been working very hard to working with us as well, but because we are really passionate about community engagement. And when I asked her, you know, what's already happening around this space now that you've already set it up, and she says that the principles are already being used. We plan our engagement before we begin our project, and people who you wouldn't think would be worrying about community engagement are now using the templates, coming to her and coming to Erin, asking, how do we make this work? How do we get to the community before we start our projects? Which you may think is a common sense thing, but no, we are now doing it by process and by governance. So congratulations, Roberta, and thank you very much for the work you've done on it.
Councillor Price.
Yeah, we've certainly put an emphasis on it as councillors, and I think that's been welcomed. That emphasis has been welcomed by Roberta Baker, and I think it's very fitting that this document is ready at this time as she's about to leave us. So thank you for your good work.
Would anybody else like to try? Councillor Goldsworthy.
You could almost say this should be changed to the Baker strategy. Look, it is no good council doing the best performance in the world if we can't communicate it. We can build all the roads, we can put up buildings, but if we can't tell the community what we're doing in a timely manner, it is pointless. This hopefully will change things for the organisation for years to come. The person that comes after you will largely have to implement it, but I think they've got a really good guiding strategy and policy to do that. So thank you to the councillors who worked on it, and particularly to Roberta Baker. I wish you all the best in retirement.
Councillor.
And look, I'd like to endorse everything that people have said. Roberta's been here for quite a long time. I've seen it from beginning to end, and yeah, and she has been working on this. It's been her big aim to get a community engagement policy up and a strategy going. So, well done, Roberta.
I don't want to be left out, Mr. Mayor. So, to Roberta, thank you, not just for this, but there's quite a few of us here that have been mayor. And you do a lot of work to make us look intelligent, which is a hard job sometimes. And so I appreciate all the work you do behind the scenes. No one's going to know how much work you do, but thank you and best of luck to the future.
I was going to leave this until last, but you've just done a fantastic job, particularly to the mayors and the hard work. You're a real achiever, and engaging with the community is your forte. I just wonder that you decided to resign because you thought I might have got the job as mayor. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Item 14.1, Goulburn Murray Water Briefing. Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'll move it. I need a seconder.
You can move it first. All right. That's seconded by Councillor Shepherd. Oh, just beat to the punch. Okay, Councillor Goldsworthy.
I'd like to say this notice of motion was self-explanatory, but I had half the guts of it ripped out of it because I did include some of the information out of the Goulburn Murray Water presentation. It is enlightening information. The community should have the benefit of the document that we saw, whether it's because it's influencing us correctly or otherwise. Because without the community seeing it, how can they say that it's not an accurate account? Whether, in the words of Dr. Dalhouse, it's inaccurate, or whether the Goulburn Murray Water staff need to be held to account for what they say. You know, for me, it was enlightening because I didn't have that information before me in which to make an informed decision. And I've been asking for it for some time. We finally got it. We should be putting it out to the community, and then we should make it, we'll try and get Goulburn Murray Water to come and explain their presentation, good, bad or otherwise. And that can only be a good thing. I'm looking for transparency and an ongoing commitment to the Stanley people to ensure that they're informed with what we're informed about. So for me, this motion makes sense. I thought it was a good presentation, and the broader community should see it, and if there are faults in it, then they should be able to pick through it and tell us.
Okay, Councillor Price. Shepherd. Councillor Trenery. You haven't got the right to reserve. No, I said you don't. Okay, Councillor Price.
I'll go first. I certainly don't think that I or as a council, we need to inform this community. I think they've come to us informed, very much informed, and they've been pursuing this of their own accord very well, and they've certainly sought to inform us. I'm not opposed to them receiving the Goulburn Murray Water presentation, but I certainly hope it's not an attempt to undermine everything that you've produced and given to us. I really respect the community's passion behind this issue, and I think that we got behind that as a council, and so yeah, I support the presentation, and I support the facilitation of a meeting, but in no way does this undermine the decision of council and us backing the Stanley community.
Councillor Trenery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to say that this is just information we've received. We should be open. If in a debate these facts need to be debated, I reckon that's fantastic. It's a serious issue for a lot of different reasons, and it needs to be debated. And all information that's available to us should be available to the community. We're talking about truck movements, we're talking about water usage, we're talking about plastics. It is very important that we have all the facts out there in the community. And if these facts are disputed, then dispute them. Absolutely dispute them. And I think that's the important part. The facts have to be out there to be disputed, to have an honest conversation around it. And I'm hoping this will be passed and we'll have a new era under the Mayor of openness.
Apart from Councillor Shepherd, does anybody else wish to speak to the motion? No. I've just got a couple of questions. Councillor Goldsworthy, in your explanatory comments, you talk about the people who spoke from Goulburn Murray Water as being experts in their field. Are you able to tell us what their qualifications are?
They've worked for a considerable time for Goulburn Murray Water, both as the managers and at lower ranks, and they both have water qualifications in relation to that. I did read their LinkedIn profiles, but I'm unable to regurgitate exactly what they were, but they were academic qualifications.
You've heard the qualifications of Dr. Peter Dalhouse. Do they compare to his qualifications?
I'm not qualified to say whether they compare to his qualifications or not, but I imagine you have to hold them up against each other and see how they go. I'd like to think that somebody who's been working in that field for at least a dozen years knows what they're talking about.
Just in the report from that doctor, he says The proposed annual removal of 19 megalitres of groundwater by Stanley Pastoral Proprietary Limited will impact on the availability of water to sustain agricultural productivity in the Kew Spring and Myrtleford Creek catchment, which conflicts with the environment objectives of ESO 1. That's a complete contradiction of what the staff members with unknown qualifications told this council.
Look, if you'd like to answer me that, if that was a question, then I'll say it may well have been a conflict, and that's why we should get the staff from Goulburn Murray Water to come and explain how they feel about it. I think it's perfectly legitimate to have a differing view from the staff, albeit that they're the governing authority for that. But yeah, it'll give them the opportunity to present what they believe to be the case.
Councillor Shepherd.
We have briefings all the time. Every Tuesday we have briefings, and often from outside sources, and we don't offer them up to the community. I mean, if the community were interested, perhaps we could, but I haven't had any, I haven't felt any thing from the community asking for this. It's something that Councillor Goldsworthy seems to be concerned about, getting out to the community, and I don't really support us setting up something for Goulburn Murray Water to come and able to speak to the community for your purposes. I mean, if the community is keen and interested, I'm all for it, but I don't see why we go to that effort for you to be able to show the community something that you think. So I'm all for transparency. If you want to put this up on the webpage for people to be able to look at it, that's fine. But I don't think it's our job to set it up. But I'm happy if the community is keen that we can perhaps or help them set it up. But yep, just leave it there.
Try Councillor Goldsworthy.
So yes, I am looking for us to help facilitate it, just to get them there, and it would be their own meeting. So what I'd like to see is that they can come and give their version of events, and if there's concern about it, that they can be raised in an appropriate manner, and that we hear about it. You know, like the statistics that we heard, and they're quite eye-opening, and I do hear from other people that there is a different side of the argument to it. But I am prepared to listen to those concerned about the bottled water industry and what they believe. So I think there's nothing wrong with us being informed, because one thing we do know is this isn't going away. We've had our last applicant drop his action, but there's every chance that another one will come along. And so the more informed the community are, the more informed we can be about where we're going to take this in the future. So that's why I'm suggesting we should release this presentation to them. Goulburn Murray Water have already said that they're happy for that to occur, and it provides information to the community, and if we can help inform the wider community with a presentation for them, I think we should do it.
Would anybody else like to speak to this motion? You've summed up. All those in favour? All those against? Lost. The outgoing mayor is not here, so we won't be speaking to the diary. General business.
I would like to call on to have a report brought back to council at a briefing, preferably for the feasibility of holding council meetings, probably every third council meeting over in Rutherglen. So we're participating on this side of the Shire, and then we're participating on the other side of the Shire, only in Rutherglen, so I'd only have to organise one other place. But I'd like a report back to briefing on a feasibility for that, please.
CEO, are you happy to provide that to a briefing meeting? Sure. That's right, Councillor Shepherd, do you have any general business?
Yes, I just wanted to congratulate Totally Renewable Yakandanda on their recent funding grant for $380,389 from the Minister for Energy. But it's a $932,879 to be exact initiative, which will establish another microgrid, this time on Sanatorium Road. And this time it's looking at single wire earth returns and will be technology that we'll be able to use to secure the network throughout Australia. So it's an exciting time, and it's a huge amount of funding that they're achieved. So well done. Look forward to seeing that started.
That's right, Councillor Goldsworthy.
So during the week, Councillor Shepherd, Mayor O'Connor at the time, and myself attended the Managing Climate Risk in Agriculture conference, as held at the George Kerford Hotel. There are a number of very interesting speakers there, and out of that came a few items that I'd like to see us continue to explore. And I just encourage the CEO, if we can get some feedback from the staff and where to from here in relation to managing climate risk, both from within our agricultural industry and to the Shire in general.
Are you happy to accommodate that, CEO?
My recollection is that there is a climate change policy of Council already that may have come out before my time, so I'd be happy to go back to that to see how that addresses the issues that you raise.
So I'm just looking for any updates that may have come out of that conference to be added into it.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Price.
I'd just like to recognise someone within our community who's having great success at the moment, a quiet achiever though. Her name's Kylie Whitehead, and she's living in Chiltern. She's 24 years old, and she's been going through a process to try and get to the world champion of champions for lawn bowls. So to do that, she had to become the club champion of Wodonga. She then went as the club champion of Wodonga to face off against 30 other clubs from the Ovens and Murray. She won that as well. She then went as the champion of the Ovens and Murray to compete in Bendigo, to compete against the 15 divisions of Victoria. She won that also. She then went to Tasmania to play against all of the state champions, and she played 6 games, of which she won all of them, and is now the Australian champion of champions, and will represent us next year in the World Champion of Champions. She was the second youngest competitor in all of this, in her spare time, she's a very successful physiotherapist and a great young lady. And I just, on behalf of Council, I think I can say congratulations to her, and we hope to welcome her back as the World Champion of Champions next year.
I'd just like to raise. All right, that on Saturday I attended the Beechworth Uniting Church annual fair, expecting to buy some seedlings from prisoners on the run, to be informed that the prisoners were not allowed to attend this event because the state government had stipulated that they were not allowed interaction with the community. This practice has been happening in Beechworth and Indigo Shire for many decades, and it just seems that we're going back to people put in jail for punishment, not for rehabilitation. I'd like the CEO to make inquiries to confirm this with the Department of Corrections and see whether we can advocate for our community on this matter. Do you have any general business, CEO, or your directors? I'm sorry, Councillor Shepherd.
Sorry, I couldn't let us go without, of course, speaking about Roberta's crowning achievement, the webpage. The webpage, our new webpage. And there's 2 strategies that are two things that you can engage with as a community member on our new webpage. And this is exciting. You're going to be able to put in your ideas on the webpage. So one is the Indigo Shire Library Strategic Plan, where you're asked a couple of questions about libraries, and the other one is the Yakandenda Placemaking. If you'd like to be involved in the steering committee, you're asked to put your name down on that, and that's both on the webpage. So again, thanks Roberta for setting up the webpage as well.
And just before I close, I'd just like to thank those who have emailed me, text me and telephone calls to encourage me to stand for Mayor. And just a last word for Jenny. She told me she'd be watching. We all miss her. I now declare the meeting closed.